I'm going to introduce you a part of the work of the team of UNIPG, which was about the development of a framework for the evaluation of the One Welfare concept under the approach of a multi-criteria analysis. So I think that a lot of you is familiar with One Welfare approach, which is a concept introduced quite recently in the scientific society, and which find a link, an interlink between the animal welfare, human well-being, and the environmental. So the One Welfare approach is a very broad approach, trying to including several aspects, ranging from the reduction of the animal-human abuse, going through the consumer, but including wildlife sustainability, so including a lot of aspects. Measuring One Welfare approach is not easy. However, it's very important to measure such approach, in particular in context of low input and organic production, for several reasons. First of all, because it's a way for proving the quality of the rearing system and also the product we are obtaining from them. Second, it's a way to make us more conscious about the differences in the practice through Europe in this area. And then, because it's also a way for improving maybe some aspect linked to the One Welfare. However, although it's so important, the measure, the concept has been developed, and we have a lot of study and approach devoted to it, but the measure of the global One Welfare is still on its way. I mean that there are some tentatives to measure it, but it's not so easy to do. In the project, we try to develop a whole global framework for the assessment, and this framework has been developed starting from the One Welfare framework and the sustainability framework, which is the DIA. This framework is not anthropocentric since the human being is a part of the global framework, but it's not so central. We want the human being to be happy, we want their welfare, but we have a lot of importance also to animal welfare, which is not completely present, or we can say it's not present in the sustainability framework, which is the most used framework for the evaluation of a rearing system. However, in this framework, there is not specific space for animal welfare. When we measure in here animal welfare, usually we find some space here in the social dimension, but then we measure it because it's important for people, or we find some space here in environmental dimension. The framework we developed is this one, in which we have the dimension of animal welfare by its own, the social dimension, which include the social dimension present here, but also some aspect of human well-being, the economic dimension, which again covers an aspect of human well-being and the economic dimension of sustainability, and the environmental health, which try to mix up both the environmental conservation concept present in the One Welfare framework and the environmental dimension present in the sustainability framework. To build the framework has been very complicated, and even the first application, it was complicated and was central in the project. We have connection with all the experimental tasks, but also with the MPG's group, with the other teams more focused on the economic and business model. And and this is, I want to show this one to let you understand how difficult it is to have a feedback and connection, and the many skills needed to build this framework. So we start just put in relation the sustainability framework and pillar with the One Welfare dimension and try to identify for each one some specific criteria and then indicator for measure that criterion. The difference in here is that this is more specific and measurable, and the criteria can sum up what is in the different indicator. We coming to this global approach. I didn't show you the global framework because it's a very big sheet and it's not very important maybe, but just to let you understand of how many aspects we include, which is the idea. The idea is to have a specific framework for the different species type involved. So we have broiler, lay-hens, fatting pig, and so 4 different framework. Each framework has the same pillar in here and the same One Welfare dimension. However, criteria and indicator may vary from one species to another. So you can see here, for instance, that appropriate behavior have 4 criteria for all the species type, but the number indicator ranging from 3 to 10 indicators. In some cases, we have the same criteria indicator for all the species type and all the farms types, so for environmental and for social. But for animal welfare pillar and for the economic pillar, we have to vary the criteria and the indicator. This is a very complex framework with a lot of indicator and a lot of criteria. How we can take everything together? We can do thanks to the multi-criteria analysis. I'm not going to go really in deep multi-criteria analysis. I just say that multi-criteria analysis is a mathematical approach using in decision support system, and it's very useful in all the cases where you have contrasting criteria and you want to have a global dimension or your problem, which can be described such as a group of alternatives described by several criteria. And in presence of divergent criteria, at the same time, MCDA allows to make a global assessment. So it seems to us very useful for measure the One Welfare approach, where we don't have everything going in the same direction all the time. We can apply very different method because MCDA may vary for the type of criteria we adopt. We have just quantitative criteria in this method in our framework. The weighting process we applied and the aggregation algorithm, which means the final name of the method, let's say. We decide to use Prometheus. And we decide to use this method, which is an outranking method of the European family of multi-criteria analysis, for several reasons. First of all, because it's very good with quantitative data, as the one we have. Second, because allow us to treat the weights as preferences and not relative importance. And then because it's a method that do not allow compensation across the different criteria. We don't want that maybe good performance by an economic point of view compensate bad performance by in the animal welfare pillar or in the environmental pillar. So this is the case studies. We actually applied the framework in 3 different case studies, one for pigs, one for layhens, and one for broiler. This is the Italian case study. I just showed that one. It's the broiler case studies that Simona already talking about, and this is a farm experimentation. So we have data coming from a real farm because we want to test the framework in a real farm scenario. And we have 3 different alternatives: the crossbreeding, the rayjay, and the naked neck. The first 2 were rated using the enrichment, while the NN alternatives is a standard free-range system. In order to have a multi-criteria analysis, you need weights. So you need to say which criteria are more important and which are less important for a group of people who can be expert or decision maker or stakeholder. We use method called the card deck method for calculating the weights involving people, stakeholders working with pigs, broiler or lay hens around Europe. And that can be aggregated in 5 different groups: producer and breeders, supply chain, where we put both feed producer, packaging, retailing, and so on, civil society, consumer and activists for one welfare, technical expert, and then academic and research and development expert. We have also global evaluation in a category called the general, in order to have everybody together, and also to include maybe the case in where we have just one person in that category, which means that we can show hers or his exact preferences standalone. These are the results we are obtaining from the singular pillar. Don't want to go too much in deep, but I just want to make you conscious about the rationale in that results. You can see that there is a green and a red line. The green part means if the blue line is in the green area, it means that alternatives have a positive results for that pillar. If you are in the red one, you have bad results. You can find alternatives which are always in the green area, but you can have also a case maybe in which one alternatives go up and down. In our cases, the alternatives which are in the green area stay in the green area, and the alternatives which are in the red area stay in the red area, although in some cases the preferences, the structure of the preferences of the stakeholder may modify the results. So here, for instance, for economic pillar, the AJ is so much better for civil society than for the technical expert, although for both of them are in the good area, the green area. In all the case studies we have, we find that the AJ was the best alternatives in all the 3 pillars, or at least stay always in the green area, while the NN alternative is always in the red area with very different results. We also made a global variation for understanding the global analysis, and that we can say that for everyone, every group, RJ is always the best choice, not the same for the CB, which is very on the green area here. It's something better here, and here go down in the red line, while the NN alternative is always in the red line. We find that this result was affected by the enrichment proposed in the first 2 solutions, which affect the global level of the one welfare approach. So, just some final remark. Applying this evaluation framework make for this specific case some interesting consideration about the effect of enrichment, and in particular because in the low input approach we know there is an issues about the land consumption. We can say that the effect of enriching in reducing this land consumption have positive effect also on other aspects. And in general we can say that the method we applied show how difficult it is to try to apply this method, and how difficult it is try to measure. However, although the difficulties, yes, someone say that if it's difficult, it doesn't mean it's not possible, and I like this definition. So it was difficult, but it was not impossible. So we have to continue studying and continue try to have an easy way to show the complexity of the one welfare concept. Thank you.